Hello, I'm Michael Krigsman, and we are here with another episode of CXOTalk. As always, I'm joined by my host, Vala Afshar. Vala?
Michael, great to see you.
And it's good to see you on this hot summer day in Boston. And we have a wonderful guest today.
Amazing guest.
Amazing guest.
Amazing.
Casey Coleman, who is the Chief Information Officer at the General Services Administration down in Washington, D.C. Casey, how are you? Calling Casey Coleman. So, Casey, I think you need
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
How are you?
Sorry about that. I'm doing very well. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Paula.
Don't you love technology?
Yes, always. I do actually love it.
And you're the CIO of the GSA.
Correct.
And that means that you are involved with a huge organization.
The whole federal government, in fact, that's correct. GSA is the General Services Administration, and we are an agency that is government-wide in our scope. We cover the whole waterfront of business services that other federal agencies use. So we aggregate the buying power of the federal government to get the best value solutions in a whole host of industries: real estate, telecom, IT, credit card services, travel services, and much, much more. And we are a provider to the federal agencies of those services. So we are very much like a private sector business in that we are very market-oriented, and we have to offer value to our customers for them to want to work with us.
Okay, Casey, give us a sense of the size of your organization.
Well, GSA is an agency of about 17,000 users in total, and my organization, the CIO IT team, is over 500 employees.
Wow.
We have a budget of over $500 million in annual IT spend.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
The government does things on a big scale.
Sure, sure. Well, if it's okay with you, Casey, before I ask my first question, I want to just introduce you a bit more to our audience. So, if you don't mind, just a little bit of background information. You're the recipient of the 2011 Computer World Premier 100 Award winner. This is in recognition of people who are driving strategy and innovation in the country's best and brightest IT departments. You're also the MIT Sloan CIO Symposium Award winner for leadership, and one of the key reasons why you were recognized for that was the role you played in President Obama's cloud computing initiative. Mm-hmm. You're a 3-time Federal 100 Award winner, which again is recognition of use of technology for betterment of agencies and accelerating the agency's mission. Based on my research, if GSA was a public company, I believe it would be in the top 250, Fortune 250. So
that's right.
Obviously you're winning all these recognition for your brilliant work in large scale, as you said. And one of the other things that have been attributed to you and your mission is the fact that you encourage the use of social media to improve federal government services. And so I want the audience to know that we're just so fortunate to be here speaking with such an accomplished CIO. And with that, now here's my question.
All right.
If you could, that was like the longest intro to a question, but it speaks to your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Your role as the CIO for now, what we found out is a $500 million budget, IT budget, and where you see the core mission that you champion throughout the IT organization at GSA.
My main mission really is to align that IT spending, that 550 million or 500 million, somewhere in that neighborhood, with the GSA administrators' priorities and the agency's top objectives, and with the Obama administration's strategic priorities. So part of what we do is really oriented around governance and decision making, and really understanding how we align our IT investments and initiatives and capabilities with what's needed in today's 21st century government.
So Casey, how does IT at the GSA fit into the broader federal government? And if you want to tell us a little bit about your cloud initiatives, and certainly
Sure.
that's going to be something that we're going to come back to as well as we talk during the show.
Sure. So GSA, I said earlier, is an agency whose work spans the entire federal government. So as an agency that sees across the whole federal government, we do a lot that is supporting government-wide IT programs and initiatives, such as the Federal Data Center Consolidation. This is an effort to really reduce the federal government's IT footprint and increase our utilization of our data center capabilities, and we manage the program that tracks that for all federal agencies. We also oversee the data.gov initiative. This is an effort to take the federal government's wealth of data and information and make it available to the public and to entrepreneurs, and to put that information out there, as was done with GPS data several years ago, and allow the marketplace to make vital use of that data for entrepreneurial purposes. So we do a lot of really cool stuff that's even outside of our own agency's boundaries. But within the agency, GSA really tries to go first. And as a provider of business services and technology services to other federal agencies, we try to be first with the implementation of not bleeding edge, but leading and innovative technologies, implement them internally, use them ourselves, and understand how to deploy them, how to use them within the compliance framework that we have to operate within in the government, and be able then to help other agencies to take that same journey. So we have had a lot of firsts with in the federal space and in the public sector space with moving to cloud computing for email and for office productivity tools, moving to social and collaborative networks that allow us to stay connected even though we're all over the place, Google Hangouts being one of those. Mobility, we're really, really pushing our mobile capabilities, and big data.
So is the GSA and your staff, specifically speaking in terms of the IT structure, is the structure somewhat aligned to the information technology megatrends of cloud, mobile, social, big data, and certainly application development, and all centered around bolstering user experience?
Oh, you bet. We have there's a lot of good news in this area. One of the things that's really remarkable in GSA, in general, federal agencies tend to be somewhat decentralized in their approach to IT. So you will find within any given agency or department in the federal government that there are numerous IT organizations that coordinate their work, but their work is not under a single chain of command. In GSA, however, we have moved from having IT offices that are more aligned with the business and program areas and functional areas such as HR and CFO, and brought all that together into a unified team. One of the reasons was that so we could really align our efforts with a force multiplier of having a unified team and do our work together with unified technology strategy, unified purchasing, shared services for those common functions such as vendor management, security, and governance and planning. And in the course of bringing all that together, we have really redoubled our focus on user experience and on agile development. So we're doing a lot with cloud platforms that let us do agile development, and we have, in some cases, reduced our total cost of ownership by 90% by replatforming from legacy premise-based IT tools to cloud platforms such as Force.com from Salesforce.
So, do you see your organization as a kind of model or a template for other federal agencies to follow?
Well, we certainly learn from other agencies, and we hope they learn from us, but I think this model is one that you will be seeing more of because it really speaks to the ability to deliver services and capabilities more economically. And budgets are in a state of some pressure these days, so the ability to do more with the resources we have on hand now, I think, is pretty compelling.
So obviously you're a very major cloud advocate, and you have been for a long time.
We are, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the challenge that I see when I speak to my customers, who are predominantly CIOs, is that they certainly intellectually are in agreement in terms of the megatrends and the impact in the enterprise and IT, but they're also, I wouldn't say concerned, but really focused on making sure that they have the proper skills and the training budget to retool their staff to move from some of these legacy applications to, for example, as you mentioned, a multi-tenant SaaS solution from Salesforce. I'm sure that as an award-winning CIO, you have a strong emphasis in training and professionally developing your staff. Could you talk a little bit about that?
We do, and that's actually a great story, because the team that currently is doing that agile development in Salesforce and also in Google is previously running Domino applications and legacy Java applications. So we have really offered new opportunities both to our in-house employees and also the contractor team that supports us with specialized skill sets. So we have seen a need for different skills. We've also seen a need for a broader array of softer skills. So it's not just the ability to develop the applications, but the ability to really communicate and do change management and understand the user experience and help users to very productively and rapidly jump in and make productive use of the capabilities we're fielding, and to get in front of the trend and not wait for them to come to us, but to understand and partner with them up front so that we can be ready when they need something.
When one thinks about change management, you think a lot about traditional on-premise applications, but I think with the cloud, a lot of people tend to think that that there's less change management, but I think that the process changes associated with moving to the cloud can often be very significant as well. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that aspect of the change?
You're right. The change management associated with moving to cloud computing is different. It's in many cases, these applications are more intuitive and easier to use because they're modern and new, and they take advantage of the consumer type experience. On the other hand, they're constantly changing. So, for example, GSA made a move 2 years ago from a premise-based email system to Google Apps, and in doing so, we knew that this change would touch every person in the agency. Email used to be just a tool, and now it's a mission-critical, always-on kind of capability. And that was part of why we made that change, is really to boost our resiliency and our availability and our accessibility from any device, anytime, anywhere. But in making that move, we looked at it as really a chance to engage the whole agency. So we asked for volunteers to be our pacers. We branded this initiative GSA's Drive to the Cloud, and we made a race car theme out of it. And we asked these people who self-nominated, around 500 of them, to serve as our pace cars. They would be the early adopters and the champions for the change, and they would agree to help others and to take responsibility and ownership of the change with us, so that it wasn't an IT-led initiative. It was really a partnership. And we tried to create some branding and some sense of, these are social leaders in the agency. These are the people who are the power users and the influencers, and they stepped out and they made the whole effort very successful.
Michael, isn't it fascinating that when we talk to Kim Stevenson, who is the CIO of Intel with 6,500 staff on her team, and then we talked to Joanna Young, who is the CIO of the largest university in New Hampshire. They are so focused on user experience, and that's part of their core values and mission. And now you talk about training soft skills and communication and really emphasizing the collaborative nature of not only the CIO at the helm, but the entire IT organization. Casey, do you see just a fundamental change in IT where historically it was more of a command and control function, and now today, in order to be successful, and I think I know the answer because you're a social CIO, you really have to have those communication skills and co-create value by partnering with the business.
Right. I think of the CIO today being a choreographer or a conductor of an orchestra, bringing various services together and choreographing the delivery of those services, but not necessarily owning the hardware or owning the licenses, really more overseeing the delivery of the capability in partnership with the people who are needing to use that, consume that capability for their own mission.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, you're trying to bring innovation to the role and to the organization. And you notice I didn't say technology because I don't think it's fundamentally at the end of the day about the technology. It's about the implication of that technology for the business organization. Right?
It is, yeah.
So it seems like that is a key part of what, I mean, I've known you for quite a while. It seems like that is a key part of what you've been trying to do for a long time now.
I think that you have to, yes, that is certainly what we've been trying to do for a long time, and I think you have to, it's never about technology, and it's really not about IT for IT's sake. It's about what's the mission of the organization, what are the business objectives or the program objectives, and you've got to really tie the business case for the investment into the achievement of those enhanced objectives. I'll give you an example. Here at GSA, one of our functional areas, one of our big program areas is serving as the landlord for the federal government. We oversee several 100 million square feet of real estate space. We're one of the largest real estate organizations in the world. And in order to effectively manage all those properties, we have individuals who go out and audit them and review the state of the property and do a review of what proactive maintenance needs to occur and what repairs need to take place. And historically, that would take place in a paper-based, clipboard kind of fashion, and then people would return to the office. They would enter those building repair work orders, and it would get turned into a request for service. We're moving now very quickly to a tablet or even a smartphone where the information can be entered electronically. So it saves time, it reduces error, it makes the work more productive, and it also I think makes the work more interesting and relevant to people. It reduces some of the repetitive nature and allows people to be more productive and more focused on interacting with customers and tenants in the building. So I think it improves customer satisfaction and perhaps even employee satisfaction.
Sure. There are a lot of analyst organizations, perhaps led with Gartner, talking about a shift from technology spend and budget from what was traditionally inside of IT to now outside of IT. They're talking, they being, for example, Gartner, that 25% of the enterprise will appoint a chief digital officer, and that the CMO will have a large portion of the tech spend. Do you find that the agencies and the customers that you serve, they're more tech savvy and their demand of IT is higher today than, let's say, 3 or even 5 years ago, mainly because of the consumerization of IT and how as you said, the tablet and the smart devices have so much computing power today, and challenging traditional IT organizations?
Well, I love to see tech-savvy business colleagues and functional area partners, because the more tech-savvy they are, the more educated a conversation and the more productive a partnership we can have. It's really hard to have a technology conversation about capabilities unless your colleagues are also aware of what the art of the possible is. So I think that's a good thing. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal recently making the case against the need for a chief digital officer. I don't know if you read that, but I think they thought that's just one more position that maybe doesn't have a clear-cut lane to run in. So I'm not sure that how much momentum that particular trend has. But I think that one of the challenges is to stay in front of that trend of offices looking for technology solutions. So that's pushing us to be a lot more agile. We have reduced our development time for new capabilities significantly. It's gone from months or longer to days or weeks in the case of some of our newer applications. So if you can deliver quality services and you can do it rapidly and you can bring an understanding of the work, of the mission of the team that you're supporting, I think the partnership remains solid. But you're right, their pressure is pretty intense to stay relevant, really.
Absolutely.
Casey, so some of your projects, given the size of the organization, must be massive in scope. And you've mentioned the Agile process that you've several times. So can you talk a little bit about the impact of agile development, on software implementation inside your organization, and what that does to projects and project management and so forth, and the success rates.
Right. I should first point out that not every project and not every system lends itself to agile development. So, for example, our financial system is based on a COTS product, and we work with the vendor to, put our forthcoming product needs into their product development stream. So there's a very traditional model there. On the other hand, the pressure for agile development really is felt across every functional area. So what we're trying to do is really consider mobile first, and go in with the perspective that it's got to be done rapidly, and it's got to be done mobile ready from the beginning. You don't add that on at the end. That's also part of the strategy of the federal government at large. Federal CIO Steve Van Rokel has put out a digital government strategy that really talks about starting with the perspective of mobile first, and starting with the perspective that the data should be open and shareable. So it's certainly not just GSA moving this direction. The federal government's making a lot of progress here as well.
We have a question from Twitter from Mike Nelson, who asks, how have Section 516 compliance challenges driven the adoption of cloud alternatives?
I don't know what Section 516 is. I'll have to look that up.
Well, I just looked it up, and it is legislation that could ban federal IT purchases of certain Chinese equipment. How's that for?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
There's a great deal of legislation that pertains to not just this section, but Buy America Act and various treaties. There's a lot of there's an entire framework around supply chain and the purchasing of not only traditional software licenses and hardware and premise-based equipment and services, but also cloud solutions. And so in any one of these procurements, we are governed by those requirements. And so in every case, we have worked really closely with our attorneys who know Section 516 and every other legal mandate very well, and our contracting team who shapes the requirements so that they can be procured in a way that's compliant and appropriate and in accordance with all U.S. law and regulations.
That's great. That's great. I want to go back to one of the earlier statements you made that everything is large scale at the GSA, and you have a broad range of constituents, and also the fact that you do promote and champion social collaboration throughout the ecosystem. And I'm wondering, does that help with adoption and acceptance of some of the rapid changes and the fantastic innovation that you're trying to champion throughout the various agencies?
Oh, I definitely think so. We at GSA are big supporters of social media and social collaboration, both within the agency and externally, with business partners and with constituents and stakeholders. We were one of the first agencies to create a social media policy probably 5 years ago now, and in there we wanted to embrace and encourage the use of social media, both from the use of official programs and for people who wanted to use these tools in an appropriate manner. And so we really articulated in our social media policy the idea of there is a professional you, a professional self, and there's a personal you, a personal self, and you should be clear in any use of social media what's the context that you're operating in, and be aware of, if you're speaking about a new technology, or you're speaking about a trend, you want to make sure that you're not appearing to represent your official organization when in fact it's just your own personal opinion. So we've tried to be really clear on the policy end of things. We've also, as an agency, we've continued to leave as available and accessible the various social media tools. We don't block them. We don't prohibit people from using them. And we do a lot with social media to share information about services the federal government provides and GSA provides to the public. You can check out usa.gov. That's the main federal portal to all information and services in the federal government. And on there, you can sign up for news feeds. You can sign up for newsletters. That there's a variety of different channels, including multiple social media channels. We have representation on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and many other channels. So we are all over social media.
And you yourself have been on Twitter for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yes, although I can't compare with Vala. We were joking about that.
Vala's a machine. We know that.
No, but you are active on Twitter.
That's true.
You write wonderful blogs and talk about your initiatives. So, if other executives in the federal government adopting and embracing social as much as you have?
I think that everyone is adopting social media at really a pace that fits with their agency's risk profile and culture. As a really more of a business-oriented agency, and as an agency that tries to be knowledgeable about these technology trends so that our customers, so that we can partner more effectively with our customers, it's in our best interest to really be effective users and champions of these new trends. So I think in some cases GSA is a little bit out there in terms of looking at the overall profile of where the federal government is, but it's certainly of something of interest to all CIOs in all agencies.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Casey, in a large organization such as the GSA, there have to be challenges driving a cloud, social, mobile agenda. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? What are some of the challenges of scale, and what are the things that you do to address those challenges?
Well, one of the challenges is that in a cloud environment, and I think this is a good thing, the solution is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. You can come in one morning and your cloud email doesn't have the same look and feel it had yesterday because the cloud service provider has made upgrades and they've pushed it out, and you can, figure it out because it's usually pretty intuitive. On the other hand, the pace of change and the fact that we're no longer in control of the pace of change, or not as in control, calls for users in the IT organization to be flexible and to take some responsibility for staying informed. So one of the things we've done is create an entire multi-channel IT change management communications program, and we call it the IT Insider. And the IT Insider is it's a blog, it's a weekly newsletter, it's a knowledge base, it includes real-time chat with technical staff and a collaboration environment where all employees can ask questions and answer them. And so we try to create the ability to meet people where they are at the point in time that they have a question or they have a need, and be able to provide relevant information then and there in a way that's intuitive and easy to use and is oriented toward the way that they think and talk and work.
I just recently read a study that talked about information workers, and in 2012, I believe more than a third had more than 3 devices that they use at work. 80% of the information workers use many apps. I believe I have probably 30, 35 apps on my smart device. And so all this consumerization of IT, this hyper-connected workforce, 52% of the workforce work from multiple locations throughout the year. Do you have flexible telecommuting and bring your own device policies within the GSA and throughout your workforce?
Oh, absolutely. We have, with our move to cloud-based email, really allowed us to start to support a much more diverse array of smartphones and tablets and netbooks and lightweight mobile devices. GSA has a policy responsibility for telework, and so we have, again, a government-wide responsibility for promulgating the framework in which we do mobile work and telework. And so we have been pursuing telework as a strategy of our own for about 5 years now. When we first started, GSA had about less than 20% of its employees teleworking, and now we're at over 65%.
Wow.
And part of that is due to not just the devices, but robust remote access capabilities. It's also having the right education campaign so people know how to use these productively. And it's also making sure that people do telework, because if you only use this capability, in the interim, then or now and then, it doesn't become second nature. So one of the things that is, I think, a great success story here at GSA is, again, practicing on ourselves first. We have renovated our headquarters building here in the Washington, D.C. area. It's near the White House, and it's where I'm talking to you from today. And we have completely changed the way the building works. It is a open, collaborative, mobile furniture. It has bookable spaces, and so, for example, to have this conversation with you today, I booked this space. I don't have a fixed office anymore. I don't have a big mahogany desk with certificates on the wall and photos. I have a space that I book according to the kind of work I'm doing that day. So what this allows us to do is many, many benefits, but one of those benefits is that this building used to accommodate about 2,500 employees, and now it accommodates well over 4,000. So
wow.
we can consolidate employees who previously were in other buildings around the D.C. metropolitan area, and we'll save over $24 million a year annually on rent. But also, we are all in one space, really for the first time ever. And so as beneficial as mobile work is, it's also beneficial for everyone to have a common experience and the ability to collaborate in person now and then. So we can be together when we need to be, and we can telework or we can work mobilely. And mobile work isn't just working from a Starbucks or working from your home. It might be working from a different place in the building because your team is in a huddle space or a collaboration room. So technology really makes that work. We're very happy about it.
That is very smart.
But Casey, this type of change that you're talking about has all of these benefits, but at the same time, don't some people find it disruptive, and they don't want to give up the mahogany desk because, let's face it, it's nice to have a big office and a big mahogany desk.
Michael has a beautiful mahogany desk.
Yeah, you should see my desk after all.
Michael, you'll have to come down here and visit us. You'll see. You'll see something very different.
I need to just interject that in the past I used to view CXOTalk as an opportunity to taunt my co-host, Vala Afshar. And now he is turning the tables. And I'm not sure that I like it.
Well, if you've got a big mahogany desk, then
I don't have a big mahogany desk. I don't have that.
And the big swivel leather chair.
Yeah, right. If only. Right. There you go. Anyway, but there are people who did have it and do have it and don't want to give it up. So how do you manage that disruption?
Well, I think first of all, you have to, again, tie it back to the mission of the agency and help people understand why there's a bigger purpose and a broader perspective than just, what's in it for me. So the reason we're doing this is not to inconvenience anyone. It is to make better use of our real estate in a very resource-constrained environment and learn and understand what it takes to do that effectively, so that as other agencies who are our clients are looking for better real estate options so that they too can manage their rent bills that they pay to us more effectively, we can be an expert partner and consultant and advisor to help them be more effective as well. So there's a mission benefit. I think people take pride in being part of something that's innovative, even if it may be personally inconvenient at first, and it will be. Everyone's going from, not everyone had a mahogany desk, but people had dedicated space, and they could put, personal items up. But this is nothing new in the private sector. This is very much the mainstream trend. And so I think it's time for us as public sector stewards of taxpayer dollars to be really responsible and thoughtful about what we're doing with those.
Sure. Well, Casey, we're among friends, so feel free to answer this.
Yeah, it's just the three of us,
and several hundred people watching.
Yeah, don't think about all those people in the future. Just the three of us. So.
And the fact we're going to blog about it and everything. But what are some of the challenges, in terms of social, mobile, cloud, big data adoption in such a large organization such as yours? I mean, there has to be challenges, and is there one particular one that you would advise other chief information or digital or marketing officers to not only look out for but also have a good way to combat?
I think one of the challenges is that so much of our existing portfolio really doesn't lend itself to cloud, mobile, social. So, for example, the financial systems, the HR systems that we have in the agency, they're very traditional COTS-based products that have been in place for many years. What we're trying to do, however, is to identify the functionality, the key capabilities that we need to extract and make mobile enabled. We're not ever going to put the entire financial system on a tablet. That's not going to happen. But the ability to approve a leave slip or a time card or to process a financial transaction or obligation, those kind of point transactions might very well be something that we do see a business case for mobile enabling. So really really understanding what's in your portfolio and understanding the variety of capabilities, the variety of technologies, what you can and can't do, and then making strategic choices about what you're going to invest in and where you're going to focus those, new technology efforts. The whole governance process and decision making and prioritization process is really essential here.
How much of a cultural challenge exists in terms of setting aside the legacy systems and infrastructure? Are there programs that better communicate the why so people can believe and really see the tangible benefits? Because I feel that some of these megatrends are fairly disruptive. So even if you had a clean whiteboard and you could design from scratch, some of the existing experience and knowledge set that exists in the enterprise doesn't necessarily lend itself to, let's say, collaboration and open office space and telecommuting and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that it's going to vary by individual according to their sort of adoption and embrace of new technologies. One of the benefits, though, to the end user, I think, is that if you look back in the past, we developed sort of point solutions, or we deployed point solutions for different functional capabilities. And what that ended up requiring is that employees who use all of these systems in their work, in their business process, workflow, workday kind of effort, had to sort of sneaker net information between them. And the employees work for the systems. The systems don't work for the employees. So the ability to really streamline that work and to reduce the repetitive nature of some of the work and to integrate things better and to, I think, make the work more interesting and allow people to be more productive and more engaged with those that they support is really why anyone wants to come to work. People want to come to work to make a difference and to have an opportunity to contribute. And if the tools are not getting in their way from their doing that, and I think that that's a pretty provocative and compelling business case.
That's excellent advice.
Casey, as you have shifted into this really innovative supplier of services and a full partner with the business, I think one of the things that's happening with many CIOs is they are struggling to remain relevant and not to be devalued as merely a provider of infrastructure and infrastructure-related services. So what advice can you offer CIOs who may be listening who are being challenged by this transition?
Well, it's certainly something we're all focused on, and I think just a couple of ideas. One, I think, is that you really don't underestimate the importance of doing the routine service delivery in an excellent fashion. I mean, you build credibility when the network is up and remote access works and the devices are routinely accessible, and that kind of behind the scenes kind of service delivery that's not very glamorous, but it builds credibility, it builds respect, and it gives you a platform to do more. And then beyond that, it's essential to build relationships and to build personal trust and personal credibility with your peer executives and with the constituencies that you support. One of the challenges we faced a few years ago was in consolidating those very infrastructure services. The GSA had, at one point, 39 different contracts for commodity, infrastructure type services, and this is back about 6 or 7 years ago. We consolidated all that into a single program, and that meant a lot of efficiencies, a lot of cost savings, a lot of security improvements and operational improvements, but it also meant a loss of some personal control at the local level, and that was a challenge for us to assume that new responsibility effectively and to continue to even at that level, remain an essential business partner to our customers and stakeholders in the agency. And so we really spent a very intensive 12 months visiting with each one of those individuals personally, visiting with each of the offices, and giving people an opportunity to have an open mic and the ability to tell us what wasn't working, and we were very transparent about fixing things and committing and following up on those commitments. And through that process, and through the process of hearing people out and collaborating with them, even on these routine matters, I think we built a sense of trust that we weren't just in this to run the IT. We were there to help them be effective and to help them get their job done. And that carried a message of credibility that benefited us as we started to do more and more with voice over IP and with mobility and telework, and many other initiatives have been successful because of the relationships that we built through that early round of collaboration and consolidation.
That's fantastic. Casey, what advice do you have to vendors or startups who are trying to sell to a CIO? And I'm sure many of the vendors and startups are watching the show, heard that you have a $500 million IT budget. Would love to hear your answer.
I've got to say the $500 million is largely spoken for.
Yeah.
But
it's always next year.
Yeah.
One of the things that's important
is it's really important to understand the constraints that we operate under and the compliance framework and to go back to the regulatory issues that we talked about earlier about supply chain and cybersecurity. We are a big customer. The federal government is, I think, perhaps the largest customer of IT, but we operate in a very highly controlled, regulated environment, and it varies slightly from some agencies. The defense community has a slightly different set of compliance requirements. So understanding those and realizing that we don't have the liberty to change those rules. We need to find solutions that work within that framework, and working with us to make sure that your solutions do fit within that framework and that we understand how we can remain compliant using innovative new solutions is, I think, a very effective way to be heard and to be credible and to be seen as a partner above and beyond being just a vendor.
What about startups? Is it inconceivable for a startup to even think about working with a large government agency?
Oh, no.
Like yours?
Oh, no.
Really?
The federal government is very committed to small business and to a heavy reliance on the small business community. In fact, the Small Business Administration promulgates standards for the percentage of your business that needs to be engaged with small business. So each of us have a scorecard that we are monitored on for our ability to work with small businesses. And we have found that we have innovative solutions and agile partners and very committed teammates from the small business community. So, for example, I mentioned earlier the consolidation of our common services, the infrastructure support services. That is a work engagement that is several tens of millions of dollars annually, and that is with a small business. They do that work for us. So we found them to be very effective. I will say that if you are a small business thinking about doing business with the government, there's a couple of avenues that you should think about engaging. One is a website called challenge.gov. The federal government is looking to be innovative, not just in its use of technology, but in its engagement with industry. And challenge.gov is a place where federal agencies post their open problems and issues that they want industry to propose a solution for. It's a sort of an open competition, and the best solution or solutions can be selected. So it's a different avenue to procure newer or more innovative or non-traditional kind of solutions. But agencies or vendors can also look at GSA. We have a program called the GSA Schedule, and the GSA Schedule is a way for a company to pre-negotiate the terms under which it will do business with the government. What that does is then other agencies can then rapidly access those solutions because they don't have to start from scratch in the discussions and negotiations. They can rely on the GSA Schedule as a way to speed up their time to solution. So we're very proud of the GSA Schedules programs. There's over 18,000 vendors who hold a GSA Schedule, and it's one way to enter the federal marketplace.
Great. Well, we're just about out of time, unfortunately. This has been a very interesting discussion, and it really sheds a different face on what one typically thinks about the federal government and about technology in the government.
Absolutely.
That's right. It's not your granddad's federal government. It's the 21st century government.
So before we end the show, I mean, we have an award-winning CIO. You're doing amazing work. What advice do you have to CIOs? What has helped you be successful in your career? And because certainly our audience would love to learn from you. If you had a word or two that you would want to share.
One of the things that I've always relied on is advice from my mentors and those who've been successful and have helped me in my journey. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was be willing to take a chance, be willing to make a change, be willing to try something you haven't tried before, to do something you haven't done before. And it sounds very common sense, but if you're not aware of it, you may find yourself falling into routine habits and practices simply because that is the routine. So if you're conscious of the need to stay fluid and to be open to change and to be willing to take a chance when the situation is appropriate, I've found that I've never regretted doing that.
So stay fluid, be open to change. That's your parting.
Change is the constant in our industry, and that's one of the things I love about it. It's always exciting, and it's never the same.
All right. Wow. Well, on that note, I think we're about out of time.
You are amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
As are you. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you very much, and look forward to sharing your words of wisdom with our audience in our few upcoming blogs. Thank you very much, Casey.
My pleasure. Have a nice day.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
It's been great. It's been great. What a fastest 45 minutes you guys.
I know, and it's a very different view of the federal government than we tend to think about.
I'm inspired.
Yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Well, you have been watching CXOTalk, and our guest today has been Casey Coleman, who is the Chief Information Officer for the General Services Administration. Casey, thank you again. We are very grateful for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And please tune in again next week, and we'll look forward to seeing you, and I hope everybody has a great week. Bye-bye.